Hello, guys, and welcome back to another show. We're flying off the cuff a little bit tonight. So, how are you guys?
Yeah, not bad at all.
Yeah. So, this is the new layout that we have for the podcast. Obviously, we've set it up for when we go live now because we have our live chat window down the side. So, that's going to be interesting to see what our listeners have to say.
Well, at the moment, they've got nothing to say.
Well, not tonight, no, because we're not recording live
Or
tonight.
do they?
What was that?
Or do they?
Oh, behave. I can't even find where my buzzy button is tonight. So,
Do you know what? You need an Austin Powers button.
I'll behave, yeah.
Yes, baby.
So I don't know how many of you guys are actually on our Paranormal Bikers page or our West Australian Paranormal Researchers page, but something that happened today, the other day I put up one of our old videos up. I don't know if you guys have seen it. The one with Eric Edgar Cook. He's one of the last major sort of serial killers in Perth. I think something like 8 murders and 14 attempted murders or something along those lines. He was a bit of a sick puppy. But we were at his grave.
Yeah.
What was that?
He was the last man hanged at Freo.
Yeah. We were at his grave well over 10 years ago, and we did a spirit box session, which generally you don't really go for. But with this one, we picked up a specific voice that actually answered 3 or 4 of our questions, and somebody put a comment up because I actually posted that the other day, and somebody put a post up saying that it sounds a lot like him. And now I've never actually heard his voice, so what I did was I actually started having a look on YouTube and things like that to see if I could find his voice, and I actually found a tape or a video with his actual confession, and when you actually play it back, the voice is a 100% match. So that absolutely blew me away. Absolutely blew me away, that. But if you haven't seen it,
At all.
if you haven't seen it at all, jump on over and have a look. So what's been going on with you guys?
Not a lot, just a whole heap of work and more work.
You need to lift your head up a little bit, man. You're sort of hiding behind Jay's little window.
Who?
You.
My head's as high as it goes.
Excuse me. No.
Is that any better?
Yeah, so how many of you guys have done the old schoolyard ghost story?
Really wasn't that huge when I was going to school, but
Or camps? Or anything like that?
Not really. It's it's not really one that went around in the group that we were in, but
Did you...
Nor I. We were just more into getting into mischief.
Oh, we all did that, mate. We all did that. But no, I mean, for me, we did this. I suppose it's like in America, they have the summer camp, where they will go down to the lake and have their summer of fun. And if you watch the movies, more often than not, a serial killer comes through killing everybody. It wasn't quite like that, but there was a big lake there, and or lake. It was the Lake District actually in England, and yeah, the memories are awesome. It's not like what you see in America where they sort of stay in log cabins or anything like that. We had these massive 3-4 story houses right on the lake's edge, and these things are about 300 years old. So there's probably ghost stories galore just about those houses. But excuse me, got a bit of a frog in my throat. Speaking of, I won't go there. I'll get myself in trouble. I'll have to beat myself. But when we were there, we actually went for 2 weeks, and settle down, you two. Yeah. Anyway,
choice of words.
Yeah.
behave. Yeah. Anyway, the first week we actually had a load of French students over on holiday, and that was interesting because they were a bunch of characters. And the second week, it was just a completely different bunch of people because it was like a 5-day rotation or a 7-day rotation with everybody, and we stayed for a couple of them. But we went out, and I did speak about this particular holiday once before when we talked about urban legends, and when we were camping out by this haunted cave, they started with the old ghost stories and everything, and you never know what's real, what's just total fiction, and yeah, they're a beast all into themselves, these ghost stories. So have you guys ever heard any good ghost stories?
I'm gonna not be very helpful with this one, I think. I really haven't delved into just the stories themselves.
Well, you can use a real ghost story as well if you want.
But just in general, like.
Wow, this is a great start.
Oh, well,
Yeah, we had one in. There's a bit of a folklore going around back where my wife and I are from over east. A place called Dunmore. There's an old manor house type thing out on a farm property called Dunmore House. And the story goes that the husband went mad and killed the wife and kids and everyone in the house. And growing up, kids used to go down there and dare each other to go in the Dunmore house, in the haunted house and everything like that, just to scare the crap out of each other.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with my throat tonight, so apologies for that. But yeah, well, I mean, the first one we had when we were on this particular holiday was quite basic actually. But what happened was the guys didn't want to stay in the tents, even though the girls were in the tents. So it's probably stupid, but the boys wanted to all go and stay in the haunted cave. Now, it was a weird little setup because you had to go through, it was almost like a man-made tunnel kind of thing, but it was only sort of wide enough for one person to walk through. It's probably 30, 40 meters long, and then you come out into this giant opening. I mean, the cliffs around were probably maybe 20 meters high, and it was almost like a circular little thing. And you walk, over this little mound and then through another tunnel. Oh God, what's going on? And then about the same thing, about another 30 meters, and then when you walk out, it's like another side as well, just this giant, basically hole in the ground that you're walking through, and then there's the cave. Now this cave is supposed to be haunted. There used to be a lot of cavers and whatever that go in there, and they'd see this ghost, and apparently more often than not it was actually sighted where we were actually staying, because these caves go on for miles and miles, and there's a number of different openings and things like that. So sorry again. Bloody hell, I don't know what's going on, but yeah, you go through all these caves and you could get lost in there because it goes for a long way. But we decided to stay in there, but we were all sort of crammed together. There was about 6 of us, and we were like this little raft of people, because we were all sort of shoulder to shoulder. And one of the camp leaders decided to sneak in through one of the openings up at the top and just make a little bit of noise to try and scare us. But we all sort of slept through it, and then he did something, and a few of these little rocks sort of rolled down, not dangerously or anything like that, but it was enough to get everybody's attention. And yeah, for the rest of the night we didn't budge. But one of the guys there, he started smoking and stuff like that, and apparently I rolled over and I flattened his pack of cigarettes, so he wasn't very happy about that. But that's where the ghost story started, and I don't know if you would say they were tame or if they were ridiculous or not. I don't know. But the first one was just about this guy in the cave, and apparently they are still haunted, these caves, but we never saw anything. And one of the other ones...
How old are the caves?
Oh, bloody hell, that's the most stupid question I've ever heard in my life. How old is the cave? I don't know if they celebrate their birthdays, but they've been around for a long time.
So were they something that could have been used by the Druids or anything in the old days?
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. They were definitely, thousands of years old. They weren't Well, I would actually say, yeah, very possibly could have been the Druids or something like. Because it was very weird that you walk through this little a walkway. And if anybody's listening to this who's in the UK and they've been to the Lake District and done some of these holidays, they might know the place that I'm talking about. I couldn't tell you what it was called because we jumped in a car in a big van and they took us out there for our sort of camping part. And one of the other stories that they did tell us was about in the same area, because the Lake District, you got the Pennines not far away and this and that. And there's this particular hill where apparently somebody died along. It was a bad night. The fog had set in, and it's this only a thin sort of walkway, and this guy fell to his death because he missed the path and stuff like that. But every now and then, the hikers that were up this trail, if the weather gets really bad, they'll see as much as they can, but quite often they'll see this figure just with a very dull torch in front of them, and they're like, yeah, so they start to follow him, and then he disappears again, and then he might turn up again, and then they'll follow him. But what they've worked out is it's this guy, and he knows his way down the path, this ghost, and he knows his way down the path, and he only shows up where these people are going to go the wrong way and go over a cliff, and it's enough to get their attention, so they sort of follow in his direction, and it sort of leads them to safety. So he's not a bad spirit as such, he's a good one.
It's not a Jason Voorhees or anything.
A what?
Not a Jason Voorhees on Friday the 13th type thing.
No, we don't know. They were a whole load of different stories that we actually talked about back then. So,
but that sort of terrain sort of leads me to believe it was like Druid type territory that they might use in the winter solstice for shelter.
Well, there was nothing there. Like you think about the Druids and you think about things like Stonehenge and things like that. There was nothing like that. But what I was saying to you before about how you just go through this little, it's almost like a doorway size hole, and it's about 40-50 meters deep, and then you come out into this, it's like a circular clearing, but the cliffs go up all the way, like I said, 20 odd meters up, and it was very circular. I don't know how anybody could make a hole like that unless they chiseled and worked their way at it, which I suppose when you look at places like Petra and things like that, it's definitely doable, and the Druids were very smart with things like that. I would say there's a very, very good possibility that it could have been something along those lines, especially with the mound in the middle, and then you go through, and then through the second cave, and then you come out into this other big opening, which is again where the cave that we actually slept in. And to sort of give you a description of it, it's like this massive cave entrance from the front, and as you're going through the front, to the right, there's like a walkway that goes off, but then it sort of stops, and that's the area where we stayed. But to the left, there's a tunnel that goes through it, and that's the one that heads down into the guts of the tunnel system, the caving system and stuff like that. So we didn't go down there because we have no idea how far it went. Was that?
I said like a catacomb system type thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Oh.
So that's where we sort of started our. Again, that holiday is responsible for so much for me. Like I've said before, and I won't say it again because Jeremy will start laughing, but it's first.
I'm already laughing because I know what's going on.
Yeah, well, we're not going to talk about that.
But does Jay know about it though? I don't think he does.
I had a summer love, right? I was all of what was it, 13 years old, 12 years old, something like that.
When the wheel was first invented.
Hey?
When the wheel was first invented.
No, just slightly after that. And I had a girl. I had a girl. I had a girlfriend there for all of about 3 days because it was only a week that you're there, you know what I mean? And I did keep in contact with her, as in, I think I made 2 phone calls afterwards because she lived on the other side of the country. And when you're 13 years old, living 300-400 miles away is quite a big distance. But she was my first ever girlfriend with boobs. So again, it was
I need a soundboard here.
it was a very impressionable holiday. That holiday for many reasons, but like I said,
Booga.
it introduced me to boobs. It introduced me to urban legends, ghost stories, and basically some other silly shit that we got involved with, like caving and other stuff, rock climbing, abseiling, things like that. So,
First for the paranormal.
well, no, not that bit. But then again, some of these other caves that we went through, they were very weird the way they were set up. So,
Freemasons.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, you remember how old England is, so, and there were lots of burial ground mounds around as well. So that was interesting stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I asked about the Druids, because that's the sort of thing that they do. They'll build caves and things like that for the winter solstice and all that sort of stuff. And they usually line up with different star systems and stuff.
Yeah, these wouldn't line up with any star systems. These were just holes in the ground. But like I said, the way they were shaped, the way they were situated, you'd be very unlikely to be a completely natural formation. The guts of it may have been, but they've definitely been worked, chiseled, to shape them in that way, because you don't get anything as perfectly cylindrical as what that little section in the middle was. So, yeah.
It makes you wonder how long it took someone to make something like that, or what tools they would have actually used.
Well, that goes into so many different things. It's the same with like the
It does.
pyramids.
Yes, well, that's another. Yeah, that's another one. Yeah.
The Aztecs.
How does something with a timeline so great have vast differences between faith religions and then pyramids being built?
Well, it's not just that. I mean, you look at like, okay, you've got the Druids. Their stuff seemed to be very much more earthy and simplistic, as in, well, other than like Stonehenge, everything that they did sort of fit in with the local area around it. I mean,
Yep.
Stonehenge stands out like dog balls on the plain down there and everything. But then when you go to like the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Egyptians with the pyramids, they like the Aztec stuff. It comes straight out of the jungle, and they had whole towns cut out of the jungle and stuff. So, you don't know what the deal is there. And then you talk about the Egyptians. Well, you go back 5,000, 10,000 years, however old they reckon the pyramids were. But they reckon at that point it was all palm trees and it was all lush. And they reckon cutting down all of the trees, which is what they say they used to roll these big blocks, is what turned it into a bit of a desert. But those rocks, those big boulders that they moved, can you imagine how far you'd roll a tree with them? They'd just crush them.
There's been talks and studies done about that with the pyramids, and they were saying for the weight of those bricks or blocks, sorry, I should say, that they were using to create the pyramids, they were on a mention of a tangent that they weren't using supposed slaves as they said they were. They would have been making massive lifting devices, and yeah, you probably would have had trees, but not to that extent of just rolling them. Like, explain how you get that top block on, like.
Yeah.
And you look at the cranes and technology we use now just to build a bloody house.
Well, this is one of the things, obviously, because I come from a construction background. I can't remember what the figures were, but like the Great Pyramid, for instance, in Giza, the settlement on that is a ridiculously small amount, and the skyscrapers that modern people build, modern construction companies build today, they can't match that minimal level of settlement. They have to allow for a greater amount of settlement than the pyramids. It could be because the base of it is so massive, it's got such a big footprint on the ground that there's not much chance of settlement, whereas what we do these days, we sink them down, we put these massive slabs in, and they go down for a bloody long way, and they just
still drop 50 million a year after they've been built.
Yeah, and that's why buildings these days do have lifespans. It might be 50 years or whatever. it's not like we're not matching 5,000 years or however old they're supposed to be. We can't build anything that's going to go like that.
Well, for me personally, people are going to think I'm a kook and a freak, but
Nah.
looking at their hieroglyphs back in the days of the Egyptians and that building these pyramids. As I said on the last episode, they all depict an alien-like figure with a flying craft.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my way of thinking, the Egyptians saw these people coming out of the sky in their flying craft, coming down to the earth to tell them and give them the idea to build the pyramid. They saw those people as a god.
Well, they would. Anybody with a level of technology so far advanced that you don't understand it appears godlike
That's
to
right.
anybody else.
Well, you look at it, like ultimately saying it, the human race is still pretty young compared to how old the cosmos is.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I was speaking with James from our team.
Yep.
Just the other week, and I think I actually messaged Gary about it as well. With regards to certain religions and hieroglyphs in pyramids, and not in the pyramids, sorry, in the Egyptian days that they used. And like you said, they depict UFOs, well, what you'd call a UFO. They're depicting their gods holding these smaller beings as well,
Mm-hmm.
looking towards the sun. There is quite a few. Like you've got ones where they've got just like literally what we typically know as an alien head. You know, did they?
Crazy.
Yeah, did they make that alien head? Like, was that? You know, it's
Well,
different.
if you look at Nazca, the famous Nazca lines, I think it's Peru where they are. They depict massive animals in the ground. They've made these massive animals in the ground which can only be seen from the air. So,
Yeah.
and I can't remember how old they reckon these were. These are thousands of years old as well, I think. And you got to think, well, one, how do they use the mathematics back then, which I suppose could be said for a lot of things like the pyramids and all these other things, to actually grid the drawing out, understand it, so that these pictures in the pictographs, whatever you want to call them, in the ground, make up what they actually are. Like there's a spider, there's a bird, and there's all these different animals, but these things can only be seen from the sky. So the next question you got to ask yourself is, who were they creating these pictures for? Because obviously they didn't have flying machines back then. So that's for the gods, and for the gods to come down from the sky. And you go to like Eric von Daniken and his book, The Chariots of the Gods. It's because if you put that into a term of reference back then, they didn't have cars, so they didn't understand spaceships, this, that, and the other. The vehicles, especially like the Romans had with the chariots.
Yep.
So the chariots of the gods, if you sort of do a translation, basically means the vehicle of the sky people,
Mm-hmm.
which is, well, what are you describing then? You know what I mean? Because we weren't around with flying machines back then.
It certainly wasn't FAA and Hornet.
No. There is one story of possible flying machines back then, but that's a whole different show, and that's about Atlantis.
Yeah.
Because
That pinpointed where that is as well.
hey,
But I think we spoke on one of our other podcasts about that, saying they may know. I have a rough idea now where Atlantis was.
every time I hear that and I mention it, another story comes up with just as much evidence for a completely different location.
Oh, 100% it does. Yeah. Anyway.
But the descriptions of that was a gleaming city that shone with massive towers, and it was surrounded by rings of water, and it had flying machines and all sorts of stuff. So it makes you think that they were that highly advanced back then, that they were at a level where we are, which I suppose when you think about it, highly advanced
Yeah, that's
is not
past
the
us,
case for us. But even if you go back to ancient Egypt, we would appear again almost like gods to them. But Atlantis supposedly had flying machines and all of that, but did they create some sort of technology which caused the earthquake or whatever it was that sank it into the ocean or destroyed it? You know, we have the technology to do that.
Oh yeah, we're blowing crap up all the time.
Jet fuel.
So, no, it's
No, I call it humanity greed.
you do what?
Humanity greed, blowing up other countries.
Well, we talked about this the other week as well. That countries these days are corporations. They're not, and corporations are all about making money and controlling things. So this show is a little bit all over the place.
Everywhere.
Well, I've got another topic. It's a little more off topic than what we were just talking about, but
Oh, geez, here we go.
what do you guys know about ley lines
I don't.
Heaps.
and paranormal activity being connected to these ley lines?
More accurately, generally, the more active locations happen where the ley lines cross.
Yeah, I realise that, but how do they find these ley lines?
I don't know. It's ancient peoples were, especially the Druids. They were all about ley lines. I mean, you look at Stonehenge. That's on an intersection of ley lines. Uluru, not man-made, totally natural. That's on an intersection of ley lines. And if you actually look at a map of the ley lines of the world, it's all to do with magnetic energies and things like that. And a lot of the sites that you would deem highly active tie into intersections in these ley lines. So I don't know if it's I don't know if it is all about turbulence when ley lines cross. You know, when energies flow, everything flows nice. If you cross two energies, you get an area of turbulence. And I don't know if that turbulence is what heightens energy activity in these locations. I don't know that much about that sort of thing.
Just typing into Google then, ley lines, as in I didn't understand what you're talking about to start with. It even says that, where is it? They believe that such ley lines demarcate Earth energies and serve as guides for alien spacecraft. Archaeologists and scientists regard ley lines as an example of pseudo-archaeology and pseudoscience.
Yeah. It's like all things that we talk about, though. Unless science can measure it, define it, and quantify it, give it a name, they don't want to know. It becomes a pseudoscience. It becomes cryptozoology instead of zoology.
Or religion.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't get... Shush.
Hey, it's just being honest.
Well, it's true. It's true.
Well, let's be honest here. So, if you believe in something, means you do not know it, and if you know something, means you don't believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, saying the belief with aliens and that, well, you don't know exactly, but you've got some sort of proof, but you don't quite know. But then the religion falls into the same category as that. You know.
I'll tell you something that's really interesting. I was watching this show this week because I've had a very slack week about Hitler's inner circle. I know this is completely off topic, but
This whole podcast is off topic.
there is no topic to this one. This is just a free for all. This one, but what they were talking about is originally, I can't even remember the dude's name now. He was some sort of a playwright. He was very no, it wasn't him.
Lars Ulrich.
No, it wasn't him. Oh,
Right.
no, I don't think it was him.
No, he's a drummer from Metallica.
Yeah, well, there you go. See, I don't know that much. But yeah, it was definitely not him. He was part of this occult group, which were preaching all sorts of stuff, but they got the attention of the German hierarchy, I guess. So they sent military people in to spy. One of the spies that happened to be Adolf Hitler, and he was there listening to this conversation in one of these little meeting areas where they were, and apparently he agreed with everything that they were saying. So he actually stepped up instead of being a spy. He actually stepped up and started to say his thoughts, and that's pretty much where its first connection started. And it's all to do with the occult and things like that, which apparently when you talk about the Aryan race, the super race and everything like that, he actually believed that they were all descendants from Atlantis, and that they were highly advanced, and that they were against the diluting the bloodlines, which ultimately created, it led to the Second World War. But when you talk about religion and stuff, I think by the first couple of episodes, it ends up he's in jail. He's gone through all of this history stuff, and he's been put in jail when he writes that Mein Kampf thing, which is his version of almost like an anti-Bible kind of thing. And they actually, his inner circle, and you're talking about Himmler, Goebbels, all of those guys, they actually called them his disciples, and they called him Messiah. Mm-hmm. So were they trying to say he was the second coming of Christ? Because I can tell you what, I don't think so. But when you look,
pointing out that the government is God.
I don't know how you would look at it, but when you look at the similarities to stories in the Bible, and I know this makes me sound pretty bad to anybody who's religious, but the stories mirror each other very, very similarly, even though they went in different directions. But at one point there, it could have gone in any direction, and they could have been very similar stories.
Hitler himself was more the second coming of the Antichrist.
Well, no, because there's no definitive, not that there's any definitive proof of anything anyway, being religious.
Dark without light.
But there's no record of the first Antichrist.
Good and evil, there's never is one without the other.
No, it's the old story. There's a coin always has two sides. You can't have one without the other. I agree with that.
Unless you get a double-headed coin, then it's rigged.
Oh, there's always one person, isn't there? So, but no, it's actually worth a look if you get a chance. Don't ask me what it's called because I can't remember what it's called now.
Well, what am I supposed to look up then when I go to watch it?
Oh, I'll find it. I'll send it to you. I think it's on Netflix. Could be wrong. It could be on something completely different. It could be on Disney actually.
Disney. Going back to the occult type stuff, there's a lot of ghost stories around the old house that Mr. Crowley owned in the UK.
Hmm.
You know about Mr. Crowley?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Apparently there was a lot of satanic rituals and everything performed in the house, and apparently that house, I don't know how true this is, but I was told that house actually sits on an intersection of a ley line.
That would make sense.
Well, here's my question. Is Kings Park sit on an intersection of ley lines?
I think it does actually.
Because you've got the whole occult thing with there, you got the pagans and the 13 tree, and then the people that go missing, and satanic cults, and all sorts that go through with that place.
I do actually believe it is on a ley line.
It'd make a lot more sense. Like what they said for decades that they've had homeless people go missing and all sorts. There's a whole thing on it big time. Wiccans saying that they've been helping these homeless people get out the way from these predators and whatnot.
I remember back in the 80s we used to go into town quite regular every Friday night, Saturday night, and we had our big group of friends, and there used to be this teenage disco called Angels. So if anybody is from Perth and they remember that, put a message down below and say, I know I'm showing my age. That was back in the days of Gobbles, Pinocchio, Shaftos, and all these other places.
Bay City Rollers.
No, we're not talking about... No! Shit, that's even older, that. No, this is in the days of Duran Duran, Spandau Ballet, and things like that. Not the bloody Bay City Rollers.
I can just see Gary rolling around in his short denim shorts, roller skates, and a little afro.
I'm not gonna. No,
Hey, girl.
we're going over to Adelaide soon for my brother-in-law's one of his major birthdays, and he's decided to do a 70s show. It's a 70s theme party. I've ordered my costume. That's all we're going to say about that. We'll move on.
Does it involve roller skates, jean shorts?
Oh God, no! I'd kill myself if there was I'd kill myself on roller skates. I've roller skated once in my life, and I ended up on my head more often than I ended up on my feet.
Hang on. So you can stand up on two wheels, just not four on each foot.
No, I'm good on a skateboard. I'm good on any of that stuff. But as soon as you strap wheels to my feet, I'm stuffed.
Technically, a skateboard is still wheels to the feet.
Yeah, I know, but you can step off if you need to.
Well, it's not my fault they tied wheels to your feet.
I know you. I didn't know you back then.
I wasn't alive back then.
Oh,
I wasn't.
No.
shots fired.
Oh yeah.
Well, no shots fired. I just was not alive.
No, they were. I don't even know where we got to with that because I completely lost track of where we were going once I mentioned angels for some strange reason. Oh yeah, we were talking about Kings Park. That's right. And yeah,
Late Islands of Kings Park, people going missing.
yeah, and quite often what we would do is once we'd finished, because Angels I think it closed at 11 o'clock or something like that, and we'd do the usual, go around to Pinocchio's and try and sneak in there, but because we were all underage, you know, we never got past the ID check and stuff. So we'd go up to Kings Park, but no one would go past, you know, that little front section where Fraser's is and everything now.
Mm-hmm.
No one would go much further than that because of the stories of the devil worshippers, and if you go anywhere
But
away from it.
They weren't actually at that part though.
No, I know that, but there were stories. We knew some of the parts where they went, and they weren't actually that far away from it. But most of the stuff happened in the guts of the park, and you just don't want to go too far. We ventured off once. Now this is when we were younger, and back then I was sort of starting to study. You know, I've been studying UFOs and things like that, and getting into the ghost stuff, but it's not something that was as readily accepted as it is now. I mean, it's still not now, but it's a lot more mainstream than it used to be. We went down one of these, one of the walkways down that led towards, around the back, towards where the Swan Brewery is, the old Swan Brewery.
Yep.
And we saw 5 people go through the shadows, and they had robes on. We were like, yeah, no, that's it. We're going back this way. No point in tempting fate there. So, and then we had that encounter with Wappa 12 years ago at the tunnel, where we came across those 4, I'd say, work experience devil worshippers. They weren't very committed at that point. They did have a sacrifice, but it was I think it was like a 24-piece KFC bucket. So
at least I was thinking of the chickens.
yeah, there was no worship. They had a little fire, tiny little fire.
Worshipping the colonel.
And this was even before. This was back when it was only original. There wasn't any hot and spicy back then either. You know, and yeah, we went through there, and they actually had like.
You've got a really bad habit of showing your age.
Well, that's what happens when you get old, mate. You can't help it.
That's when Pepsi used to come with a big blue label.
They did.
Yes.
They
The Diet Coke bottles were in bottles that looked like Pepsi bottles.
No,
And we had mellow yellow.
High C.
Yeah. Tang.
Tab.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Elle McPherson was the tab girl, wasn't she?
Oh no, it was before El McPherson.
No, the tab girl.
Yeah, Tab was way before her.
Yeah, but she was the one that was running down the beach with the tab.
Are you sure?
Well, I don't know. I remember her running down the beach. I don't remember the drink, but
I thought it was Delvine Delaney.
no, she was actually on TV the other day. She was on the Paul Hogan show, which was probably in the same around that same time.
Same era.
Yeah.
Paul
Good
Hogan, isn't that the guy that moved to the US and complained about how bad Australia was and now he has to come home because he's dying?
Good old Hogs,
That
mate.
guy.
You couldn't get a bigger bogan.
No.
Yeah, you couldn't, but now he's just become a complete asshole.
He
Or-
got
or- or-
like the Crocodile Dundee.
I remember when I was living in England, and Mum and Dad said, "Oh, we're thinking about going over to Australia to live. What do you think?" And like back then, I was like, "Oh, all my friends are here. I don't know any different. They talk with a funny accent over there, all this other stuff." And then they go, "Well, there's a TV show about Australians, and they'll put it on so that we could watch it." It was the frickin' It was the Paul Hogan. No, this was long before Neighbours. It was the Paul Hogan show. Terrible.
That was great.
Yeah, I know, but that was my introduction to Australia. I was thinking, what kind of weirdos are these people?
Well, you couldn't ask anyone else to give you the lingo.
No. But we are totally off anything paranormal at the moment.
Well, here's my question for you to get back onto the paranormal topic.
We've only got 20 minutes
What would
left.
you guys like to do? That's fine. When do you guys want to meet up and do something for, say, go through Kings Park at night, see what we can find?
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Yeah. The only issue that you have with Kings Park, though, there's a lot of druggies in there now. It's not so much the devil worshippers you've got to worry about, it's the druggies and stuff.
Oh, I'm not scared of devil worshippers.
No,
Well, I'm not.
actually, I'm not really scared of anything.
Lies. I've seen your face when you see crippling debt.
Well, there is that, but spiders is my only downfall.
I was just about to say, you should have seen the look on his face when he left our place today and there was the spider's web. He's like, yeah, nah.
Yeah, nah.
Well, hang on. This guy that used to jump out of planes or helicopters for fun and stand in the front line, but ooh, it's a spider.
Yeah, nah. More than 2 legs is too much.
But what if it's a dog? They got 4.
That's different. I can cuddle them. I ain't gonna cuddle a goddamn spider.
Well, you
Linwood?
could if it was big enough.
The one outside of Gary's place was plenty big enough.
That wasn't the big one. That was only the baby. Hang on, no, he's not there. She's not there at the moment. I can't see her on the security camera because she built a web right in front of my security camera, so she's massive in there, and the IR lights pick her up.
Come back at night and wait and see the big one. It's not going to happen.
No.
But yeah, I'm quite happy to go through Kings Park.
We need to actually arrange a few more investigations and stuff. So I actually found my list of contacts the other day. Are you guys keen on going back to Fremantle Prison if I can arrange that?
Oh, please, you don't have enough
Yes,
car.
definitely.
All right, I'll reach out to them.
As far as I know, everyone in the team is as keen as mustard, twice as yellow to go there.
But so you know, a while back, Gary, we were talking about Slender Man and a few other bits and pieces, and
Yeah.
well, from what I can find as well, through the Aboriginals and the Noongars, they were saying that they have pretty much the same sort of thing in their, I don't know what you call it, without being disrespectful, the Dreamtime or their,
Adoption.
yeah, exactly, with their
Yeah,
stories, and apparently they are commonly seen through Kings Park as well, being that was part of a certain area for them as well.
Oh, it is. It's a very spiritual place for them.
It's the same as the Indigenous over in New South Wales. They're called the Kooris. They're not the Noongars over there.
Yes,
It's a
yeah,
different
yeah,
tribe.
yeah, the Koreans.
They have one that's similar. They call it the Gorge.
Mm-hmm.
So and it,
So
very
hey, it'd
close.
be cool if we go through and see one of those.
oh, it'd be amazing to see.
What you need to do is actually do a little bit of research and work out what are the best times to go there for these kind of things. You know, they will have specific, whether they be times of the year, seasons, or moon phases. There'll be a number of different things, and there will be certain aspects which will make encounters a lot more likely.
Oh, 100% it does. It depends completely on like moon shifts and everything else as well.
Speaking
Yeah,
of
like
which,
the
has
Guru.
anybody actually had a look out to see if they can see this comet?
Pardon?
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it.
The green comet that's supposed to be around. I think they're saying Saturday night's probably the best night to see it.
Well, I know where
Okay.
you're going on Saturday night.
Probably not going to be doing a hell of a lot this weekend, to tell you the truth.
You'll be going down to the beach at Rockingham.
Possibly. Highly possible.
Yeah, you'd be like, "Where's the comet?"
Oh, maybe not at night time, but definitely be going down there for a bit of a swim.
You can't swim. English people can't swim.
I'm not English anymore, man. I've got a bit of paper that says I'm an Australian.
That's all right. I just said English people can't swim.
I know, but I can.
Yeah, but you're Australian.
Exactly.
Uh,
Also, being a bit tubby, I tend to float.
yeah, I've seen people of larger stature that just sink.
I have to wear a weight belt so I can go snorkeling under the water, and I just can't do it. I think I've got something like 5 kilos in weights on my weight belt, so I can go down. But if you start swimming in a straight line,
Yeah,
you
I think I've
start
got
sinking.
I think, well, for me to
Yeah.
get to 9 meters breath hold, I think I'm holding about 8 kilos of weights.
Yeah,
See, I don't need weight belts. I've got my gut.
yeah, I know, but that's floaty.
Yeah, but it's at least 40 kilos,
I know, but
Yeah,
it
Do you
floats.
wear your shirt up or down?
or possibly tucked in.
Why we? No, this is not a conversation.
But no, Kings Park would be good. I don't know when we'll have to organise it for when obviously Jay's back from work.
Yeah, I had a couple of good ideas for different places. Karen, the WAPR secretary, she's actually making some good connections, and there are some
Yes.
big investigations.
There's about what,
In-
3 or 4 on the go at the moment in talks.
There's probably a couple more than
Yeah.
that even.
I've seen she's been very busy.
There's one.
Love
You can't name any places at the moment because of
no.
confidentiality. But there's one place that we're probably not going to be able to do, and that's only because of the fact that they can't get volunteers to go in after hours. So
That's right. She was saying to me about that.
yeah,
And she said maybe in a couple months' time when they have their regular staff back.
yeah. And there was another place that were definitely keen, but I'm not going to be able to make it because of work commitments. But and she sort of said, "Well, do you mind if we, send some of the other guys?" I said, "No, that's fine." That's the whole reason why WAP is actually a reasonably big group, is because a lot of our members are FIFO, and at any one time with commitments and stuff like that, there's going to be a handful that can't make it. So there's
Oh,
always
yeah,
going to be a
fine.
few that can, and that's why that's why I structured the group the way it is, so that there'll always be a couple that can make it. Whereas if you've got a group of 3 or 4 people, sometimes it can be very hard for anybody to make it. So
Yeah, exactly.
It's been very hard to get everybody in the same place at the same time.
it's very hard. It's very hard. And when I plan a lot of these events and things, it's a matter of, you might be working one shift, Mike might be working another shift, somebody might be on holiday here and somebody might be on holiday there. It's just hard to G it up. So quite often I have to go with which one's going to get me the most people. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And just go with that. So sometimes people do miss out, but I try to keep it as even as possible. There's going to be some that I'm going to miss out on because I just can't do it. But I've got no issue with you guys going and representing the team,
I haven't got a problem at all.
So,
Represent,
hey?
Jeez.
represent.
Hey, you know how we got this third person now?
Yeah. Regrets?
No. Just
I'll bet you do.
oh no, not at all. We just might need some PR training.
Yeah. Definitely.
What was wrong with what I did? Gotta
Yeah,
represent.
We're not a gangster group. You gang signs and
Stop swearing at people that can't speak or hear properly.
I've got no idea what I just said.
I don't know. Either you maybe just sold your wife for 2 camels and a sheep. I don't know.
Oh, I hope not. I've got a really nice wife.
You do.
Worth a lot more than that.
Pretty lovely.
No. So, we still got 10 minutes to go, you know.
That's all right.
So we're going to sit here for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
La da da.
I actually want to do a lot more ghost stuff. A lot more.
I,
'Cause that's the stuff that gets my blood pumping. I love it.
to be honest, I wouldn't mind doing not trying to take it away from WAPA or any other group members for that fact. Just something that we can put together for us.
Yeah.
As silly as it sounds, I don't want to sound selfish about it. I don't want to sound like we're trying to keep people out of anything. But it'd be nice to, that small group
All right.
of people.
I want to put something to you guys, okay? It's not going to be a secret once it goes out there. I should have this new.
Hold your beep button, and we'll be right.
I haven't got me. Oh no! Don't make me start looking at buttons and look for things to do. I'm picking up that new camera this week, and one of the reasons why I wanted this new 4K camera is because I want us as a team, as in the 3 of us, to put together a few actual proper episode type things, not just podcasts like what we're doing now. I'm talking about a proper show, you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've been thinking about the same thing.
No, not well. I suppose you can have a bit of motorbike riding in there, obviously,
Well,
but
you're gonna have to.
I'm not going to hang a 4K camera off me handlebars. I do have the 360 camera to get some footage.
Have GoPros.
Eh?
It's in the name. We have to have bikes in there somewhere.
We do. We have to have we have GoPros.
I don't.
Well, we can strap one to your bike. I'm sure there's plenty around.
Well, you can. You don't have to have a GoPro. You can buy yourself a cheap action camera for $50. That'll do the job.
What's that?
It's a little camera, itty bitty.
It's a GoPro that doesn't say GoPro. You know, it's like the Wish version of a GoPro. You got a 50-50 chance of it actually recording.
Nothing wrong with eBay specials.
No, you can get some really good
I like
specials.
that first life.
But anyway, where I was going with that is, I've got probably 3 episodes. It might take us months to get these things recorded and put together, but you know, I want to do these and then we can present them as like special presentations. And I'd like to do maybe 2 or 3 of them a year. That's on top of our normal podcasting, but not every podcast is going to be as random as this one. We will have a bit more structure to some of them. But that being said, we're now set up so we can do live streaming. We can take calls from anybody who may be listening. And as you can see, just to the right of the screen, we have a chat room which people can write comments in and they can chat to us. And we can have a full-on conversation with them as we go. So,
and before they start, yes, I am married. No, I will not take your number.
it's too far away to find the bloody... Oh, hang on. There we go. I don't know. I can't take you guys anywhere.
No, but what? Well, if that's the case, why are we organising stuff?
Yeah, but we're a lot of fun.
All right, so we've got 5 minutes. We've got 5 minutes left.
How come it is Gary's always trying to be the serious one, but when you get him out there in the moment, he's just as bad.
Yeah.
Shush. We're trying to present an air of professionalism.
Yes, but we are but human.
Well, that's questionable.
Funny ones at that.
Yeah.
I've been called Rocco.
Excuse me?
I've been called Rocco, so
Well, dirt dart, rock ape.
black cat, yeah.
Anyway, we are not going to go down those. Keep it on target, otherwise we're going to stop the show early.
Dirt dart, keep it on target. Nice one.
Oh, we got to. So, but no. So that's my plan. Anyway, we want to do some interactive shows. We want to do some. Obviously, we're going to have special guests on, where we will be doing, special guest interviews. We've got some big people who've sort of said yes, they will, but we haven't.
What was the one we were looking at? I don't know if you can mention names about it. We've been looking at doing for a while. I can't remember. You were.
I've actually got to reach out to him because he said, definitely, but he said he was finishing off. Yeah, he was finishing off his new book, and he said to contact him at the first part of the new year, which is right about now. So I'll reach out to him and have a word with him. But he's a fascinating dude. He's written quite a few books, and he started out in England as a reporter for a little paranormal newspaper that used to come out 3 or 4 times a year. And it turns out that the actual base, the house that they were set up in, was haunted. So that kick-started them off. But some of the stuff he talks about, it goes into myths and legends, and he's basically like an Indiana Jones almost, without the action side of things, but the amount of knowledge this guy has about, I mean, you're talking King Arthur, you're talking about the Holy Grail. That's his life. His whole life is researching this stuff, and the amount of information he's got is ridiculous. Like he, what is it? Where the 10 Commandments came down?
Mm-hmm.
He thinks based on all of his research and everything, he reckons he's found the actual mount that it actually, is it Mount Sinai or something like that? He thinks he's actually found the proper site for it.
They didn't fall down though; they were carved by hand.
If they were real, and then you go into the Ark of the Covenant and all that sort of stuff. It's all fascinating stuff.
How come you mentioned King Arthur and what was the other thing you said? King Arthur and
The Holy Grail.
All I can think of is The Life of Brian.
Bring out your dad.
Straight away, I don't know what it is. King Arthur, Holy Grail, bang, Monty Python. That's all I can think of.
He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. Now go away.
God, can't take you two anywhere, can we?
Oh, it's not mine.
Anyway, I had another idea. Why don't we, as the three of us, for a podcast one night, like go out to, say, Fremantle, take a camcorder, take a microphone, and just hit individuals on the street and ask them their take on the paranormal.
We don't want to scare everybody.
Well, it's not scaring everybody. It's, you just...
But you do it on a Friday night or a Saturday night when the nightclubs are open and they're drunk?
Oh, we go fairly early. What we do is we get them before they actually go into the nightclub, not when they come out of the nightclubs.
Yeah, and just ask people if they mind being on our podcast, and just like a quick 5-minute interview per person. What's your take on the paranormal? Do you believe?
It doesn't even have to be. You'd have a hard time getting anybody down for 5 minutes. All you need is a few lines from each person, and you can still put something together.
That's what I mean. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
That way it involves the general public.
Yeah.
Well, you got the little lapel mics. You just stick one of them on a little pointer, and you be like, "Hey."
And it gets our name out there more.
Yeah, these kooks were running around the city asking me these questions.
Well, you never know. Could gain either notoriety or fame.
Look,
We
at the end
could.
of the day, no, bad publicity is still good publicity, is it not?
It is.
That's
It is.
true.
Anyway, we're out of time, guys. So, better say your goodbyes.
Goodbye.
Do you want to say your... Hang on, should we get Jay to say the line that he couldn't remember from last time?
We should, because we probably can't remember this time.
Keeping it spooky.
What was that?
Keeping it spooky.
No, almost.
Stay spooky.
Keep it spooky.
Or, like Elvira, unpleasant dreams.
No, that's not ours. You can't use
There
that. Come on, Jeremy, just do it.
Keep it spooky.